The journey to the Shattered Isles took them across treacherous seas, navigating through violent storms and unpredictable tides. The wind howled and the waves lashed at their small ship as if the very ocean itself sought to deter them. Alaric, Selene, Eldrick, and the crew struggled against the fury of nature, their faces set with grim determination. Selene stood at the bow, clutching the crystal heart around her neck. It had grown colder, its soft glow flickering as though in anticipation of what lay ahead. Beneath the distant thunder, she could feel it, a faint pulse, like the heartbeat of something ancient and powerful, calling to her from the depths of the Isles. "We're getting close," Eldrick said, joining her at the bow. His eyes were fixed on the jagged silhouette of the Isles rising from the sea, shrouded in mist and shadow. "The magic here is old. Older than anything I've ever felt." Selene nodded, her gaze never leaving the horizon. "It's like the heart is reacting to it. As if it knows what's waiting for us." "Or what's waiting for it," Eldrick muttered. "Let's hope it doesn't lead us into another trap." The Shattered Isles were unlike anything Selene had ever seen. Massive, broken chunks of land floated in the air, suspended by ancient magic, their surfaces dotted with crumbling ruins and overgrown forests. Waterfalls cascaded from the edges of the floating islands, disappearing into the mist below. The sky above was a dull, oppressive gray, the air thick with the weight of forgotten history. The group disembarked from their ship, their footsteps echoing on the shattered stone pathways that wound through the ruins. Statues of long-forgotten kings and queens lined the streets, their faces worn away by time, their once grand kingdoms reduced to rubble. "This place, it's like a graveyard," Alaric said, his voice hushed. "It is," Eldrick replied. "These isles were destroyed during the last convergence, when the balance between the realms was first disrupted. The magic that holds them together is all that remains of the civilization that once thrived here." Selene felt a shiver run down her spine. The air was thick with the remnants of the past, as though the very land was haunted by the memories of those who had perished during the collapse. But amidst the decay, there was something else, an ancient power, pulsing beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. As they ventured deeper into the ruins, they came upon the entrance to a vast underground chamber. The stone doorway was carved with intricate symbols, glowing faintly in the dim light. Eldrick stepped forward, his hand hovering over the runes. "This is it," he said, his voice filled with awe. "The sanctum of Athena, the heart of the ancient civilization that once ruled these isles. If the artifact is anywhere, it will be here." Selene's pulse quickened as they descended into the chamber. The air grew colder, the darkness more oppressive. The walls were lined with ancient murals, depicting scenes of war and chaos, of realms colliding, of creatures from both worlds locked in battle. At the center of it all was a figure, cloaked in shadow, its hand outstretched toward a glowing sphere of light. "The Shadow Sovereign," Selene whispered, her eyes tracing the mural. "It's been behind this all along." "It's more than that," Eldrick said, his voice low. "The Sovereign didn't just want to bring about the convergence. It wanted to reshape both realms in its own image. To bend reality itself to its will. And it still does," Alaric added grimly. "Unless we stop it." At the far end of the chamber, a massive stone altar stood, bathed in a soft, ethereal glow. Resting on the altar was an artifact, shimmering with the same light as the crystal heart, a second heart, its power pulsating through the air like a living force. Selene stepped forward, her hand trembling as she reached for the artifact. The moment her fingers brushed its surface, a surge of energy shot through her, filling her with a warmth that spread through every inch of her being. "The hearts of Athena," Alaric said, his voice reverent. "Together, they were created to maintain the balance between the realms. But their power is far greater than we imagined." Selene could feel it, the raw, untamed magic of the two hearts intertwining, merging into something far more potent than she had ever experienced. The weight of their power pressed down on her, threatening to overwhelm her senses. "Can you control it?" Alaric asked, his voice tinged with concern. I don't know," Selene admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I have to try." As they emerged from the chamber, the ground beneath them trembled. The sky had darkened, the clouds above swirling ominously. A low, rumbling sound filled the air, growing louder with each passing moment. "It's starting," Alaric said, his face pale. The convergence. From the depths of the Isles, a massive rift began to tear open the fabric of reality, its edges crackling with dark energy. The wind howled, and the very land seemed to groan in protest as the two realms began to collide, their borders blurring into one chaotic, swirling mass of light and shadow. At the heart of it all stood a figure, tall, cloaked in darkness, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. The Shadow Sovereign had finally revealed itself, its presence casting a pall over the land like a suffocating shroud. "Selene," the Sovereign's voice echoed across the Isles, deep and resonant, "you cannot stop what has already begun. The convergence is inevitable. Embrace it, and you will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine." Selene's grip tightened around the two hearts. She could feel the temptation in the Sovereign's words, the allure of power, of control. But she knew what that power would cost. She had seen it in the ruins, in the devastation left behind by those who had tried to wield the hearts for their own gain. "No," she said, her voice steady. "I won't let you destroy both realms. I won't let you twist reality to suit your own desires." The Sovereign laughed, a cold, hollow sound that sent a shiver down Selene's spine. "You are but a child, playing with forces you cannot begin to understand. But if you wish to challenge me, then so be it." With a flick of the Sovereign's hand, the rift expanded, its dark energy swirling toward Selene. She braced herself, her heart pounding in her chest as she called upon the power of the hearts. Light and darkness clashed, the two forces colliding with a deafening roar. Selene could feel the strain of the magic pulling at her, threatening to tear her apart. But she couldn't give in, not now. Not when the fate of both realms hung in the balance. The battle between Selene and the Shadow Sovereign raged across the Shattered Isles, their powers lighting up the sky with bursts of energy. The ground shook beneath their feet, and the air crackled with raw magic as the two forces collided again and again. Alaric and Alaric fought desperately to hold back the creatures that had poured through the rift, their weapons flashing in the dim light. But it was clear that the real battle was between Selene and the Sovereign, a battle for the fate of both realms. Selene could feel the hearts burning in her hands, their power searing through her veins. The Sovereign's dark magic pressed down on her like a crushing weight, but she refused to give in. She reached deep within herself, calling upon every ounce of strength she had left. And then, in a blinding flash of light, it was over. The Sovereign let out a final, agonized cry as its form dissolved into nothingness, consumed by the very power it had sought to control. The rift in the sky closed, the dark energy dissipating into the air like smoke on the wind. Selene collapsed to her knees, the hearts falling from her hands as the exhaustion of the battle washed over her. She could barely breathe, her body trembling from the effort it had taken to wield such immense power. Alaric rushed to her side, his face filled with concern. "Selene, are you all right?" I think so," she whispered, her voice hoarse. Is it over?" Alaric nodded, his expression grim. "For now. But the balance between the realms is still fragile. We have to be careful not to let it tip again." As the sun began to rise over the horizon, casting its golden light over the isles, Selene looked out at the landscape. The devastation of the battle was evident, the ruins were even more broken than before, and the once floating islands had begun to crumble. But there was hope. The convergence had been stopped, and the realms would heal in time. And though the journey had been long and difficult, Selene knew that they had made a difference. She looked down at the two hearts, now lying dormant in her hands. Their power had saved both realms, but they had also come at a great cost. Selene had seen the price of wielding such power, and she knew that it was not something to be taken lightly. "We'll find a way to restore the balance," she said, her voice filled with determination. "Together." Alaric smiled, his hand resting on her shoulder. "We will. And whatever comes next, we'll face it head on."